This is Newstalk ZB News.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. I'm Neva Manu. Surprise at Winston Peters' announcement of Cabinet's decision not to recognise Palestine for now. During a speech at the UN over the weekend, the Foreign Minister told the UN General Assembly that Palestine did not meet the traditional benchmarks for state recognition. Geopolitical analyst Geoffrey Miller says 153 countries now recognise a Palestinian state. Miller told Ryan Bridge Peters' decision contrasts with past ones.
Because New Zealand has tended to side with the likes of the United Kingdom and Canada, Australia. Throughout the war, it's issued numerous joint statements, it's voted with them.
This is Newstalk ZB News.
Good morning, it's 7:30. I'm Neva Manu. It's thought the Foreign Minister will have more questions to answer about Cabinet's decision not to recognise Palestine. Over the weekend, Winston Peters told the UN General Assembly that Palestine did not meet the traditional benchmark for state recognition. Geopolitical analyst Geoffrey Miller says New Zealand needs to be involved in the process to improve conditions in the region so future recognition can happen. He told Ryan Bridge the decision will have raised some eyebrows among the international community.
So Winston Peters, who is very much a fan of getting out there and travelling as much as possible as Foreign Minister, he will be asked questions about this when he travels.
Ryan Bridge.
The world has heard New Zealand's verdict on Palestinian statehood.
With a war raging, Hamas still in place, and no clarity on next steps, we do not think that time is now. Recognising Palestine now will likely prove counterproductive. That is, Hamas resisting negotiation in the belief that it is winning the global propaganda war.
Labor and the Greens are hit back, of course, saying it's morally reprehensible what the government's done. Geoffrey Miller is foreign policy analyst with us this morning. Geoffrey, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
I wasn't at all surprised by this, were you?
I was a little surprised because in the end we've got 157 members of the UN out of 193 recognising a Palestinian state, and New Zealand has decided not to be one of them. And New Zealand is quite an outlier now, and it is really at odds, Ryan, with the policies that New Zealand has taken and the approach and its approach to the war in Gaza, because New Zealand has tended to side with the likes of the United Kingdom and Canada, Australia. Throughout the war, it's issued numerous joint statements, it's voted with them. It's surprising in that sense.
Isn't it more technical, like Hamas remaining the de facto government in Gaza? What are you actually recognising? And the other argument, why would they give up arms or go for a ceasefire when they're gaining so much on the propaganda front?
Well, look, that's the argument from the government, that there's no real viable state to recognise, and that Hamas is still in control of a good part of the Palestinian territories, in other words, in Gaza, and therefore that's why the government can't recognise the Palestinian state right now. But I think New Zealand really is missing the moment, in a sense. What we're looking at here is an expression of will from the international community for a Palestinian state to exist. And just as we talk about Israel's right to exist, this was about Palestine's right to exist. And New Zealand has made its decision. I think it will be very interesting in the coming days and weeks. Winston Peters will need to explain that decision further. Christopher Luxon will need to explain that decision further, not just domestically in New Zealand, although that will be very important given that the decision was revealed only in New York, but internationally as well to New Zealand's friends and partners. So Winston Peters, who is very much a fan of getting out there and travelling as much as possible as Foreign Minister, he will be asked questions about this when he travels. He'll be asked why New Zealand decided to sit it out. And he will have answers to that. And one of the answers that he said was that we needed action, not words. There needs to be dialogue, diplomacy, leadership. Those were the words that Christopher Luxon also used. So I'd like to see New Zealand take a more active role and a leading role. If New Zealand's position is, well, we need a viable state and we need a ceasefire, then I think New Zealand needs to be redoubling its efforts to contribute to that effort, to bring about a ceasefire and a longer-lasting solution, a political solution, a two-state solution in the Middle East.
Geoffrey,
it's the only answer.
Appreciate your time this morning. Geoffrey Miller, foreign policy analyst. Time is 16 after 5.
This is Newstalk ZB News.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Adam Cooper. A geopolitical analyst says New Zealand's delay in recognising Palestinian statehood doesn't really matter. It follows several key allies announcing their position today. Geoffrey Miller believes the government's likely to come into alignment with other countries and recognise Palestine as a state.
I don't think it matters overly whether New Zealand recognises a Palestinian state on a Monday or a Friday. In the end, the outcome will be much the same.
This is Newstalk ZB News.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Adam Cooper. New Zealand has fallen behind its Five Eyes partners in delaying its stance on Palestinian statehood. Canada, the UK and Australia have recognised an independent state today, copping backlash from Israel. Winston Peters is in New York for the UN General Assembly and will reveal New Zealand's position later in the week. Geopolitical analyst Geoffrey Miller says New Zealand clearly doesn't want to be out in front.
New Zealand, I think, is keen to be a fast follower rather than a leader on this issue. That seems to be the position that Winston Peters and the Cabinet have come to.